Hello and welcome to session 341 in the AISafety.com reading group. Tonight I will present an overview of organizations working within AI safety. And this is all based on a map that I've made together with Bryce Robertson, Melissa Samworth, Plex, and some minor contributions from many others. I'll start by showing some of the most important video channels, because videos are how most people learn about AI safety. And for a long time, Robert Miles was the primary AI safety explainer. His videos were the first that a lot of people saw of AI safety. These days, I recommend Rational Animations. They have very high quality videos, and they go more into like, why is AI safety important? I would also highlight Doom Debates by Lyron. I think these are very high quality contents, the videos that point to some of the things that I personally believe are most important to understand on the object level about AI safety. And then finally, there are many smaller channels, like channels that only cover a subset of AI safety or cover more things than just AI safety. There may be something for many people here. Podcasts are another way that many people use to dive deeper into the topic of AI safety. Here I would highlight the 80,000 Hours podcast. They're featuring extremely deep dives into topics of AI safety, and they are produced of very high quality with some of the best researchers. There are other great podcasts I can recommend. Dwarkesh would be an example of someone who does a lot of work in the research phase and are able to attract some very impressive guests. For technical quality, the AXRP, they pronounce it AXRP or something like that, they have very high technical quality, and that's also a strong recommendation. Blogs run by individuals can also be a good way to stay in the loop and learn more about AI safety. Here, in particular, I would highlight Zvi Moskovich's Don't Worry About the Vase as a good way to keep updated. I really like this because he isn't afraid to give his personal takes on a lot of the subjects that come up. Another strong recommendation is for Astral Codex 10. Not just is this a really good blog, exceptionally well written. It's historically been very important. It has a great community, both in the comment section and also physical meetups. Among other blogs, there are some that are updated very infrequently, but are still of very high quality. There are also some, like Joe Carlsmith's blog, that may be worthwhile additions here. In general, people differ in what kind of written context they prefer. So I would recommend people check out a number of these blogs and see if there are some writers where you like their style. But if you prefer news to be pushed to you, then there are a number of newsletters available. I probably would not have included this category in itself if not for two particular important newsletters. And the first one is Import AI. It's written by Jack Clark from Anthropic. It's pretty short in general, but it's really highly professional. I recommend that very strongly to learn about AI safety and new models. Of course, it has Anthropic's point of view, so you should be aware of that, but it is really good. And the second would be Transformer, which is another really high quality newsletter. I think the thing that makes it really good is the way it blurs the line between the newsletter and journalism. That's really good. But in your learning journey, there will come a time where blogs are not sufficiently. You will need some kind of formal training. And happily, there are many organizations within AI safety that can provide that. And there is some kind of clear path and progression that is almost the standard in the community. So the first is Blue Dot. We have the alignment fundamentals, courses that a lot of people go through. And then for upskilling on the technical side, most people go to either Arena or ML for Good, depending on what skills they are missing. And if you pass through all this, then the next obvious step to go is maths. And that's, of course, if you can make it, which, isn't given at all. So for a lot of people, this road isn't working, but fortunately there's a host of other orgs that can help in upskilling, and they have a lot of different focus and are more localized. There may be many reasons to go to some of the others, and I think this is a part of the ecosystem that is quite healthy. Like literally none of these organizations existed when I made the first version of this map, and I think this is exceptionally helpful. Now I want to step a bit aside and highlight some resources, which are some useful artifacts, even though they aren't like strictly organizations. Less Wrong would be an example. Like this is a message board that is really, really good. And I would say if you're not familiar with Less Wrong, then you're probably making a mistake. I recommend looking at these resources not just as a consumer, but also as a producer. There are a number of ways you and everyone can improve these resources. And I think it's important to contribute both to get into the habit, but the process of contributing is also one that sharpens yourself and sharpens your understanding. For both researchers and other at the more early stages of their journey, there's a number of organizations that provide different kinds of support. And this category it includes everything. There's things like accommodation, incubation, so there's no real summarization that's possible of these organizations. So it's more like if you are looking to contribute to AI safety, you are likely to be bottlenecked on something. You have run into some kind of obstacle. And if you do that, when you do that, you will, most likely there will be others who have been in that exact same situation, and some of them might have created an organization that could help you. This is a good place to look for that help. There are also some organizations and some guides and other resources to help people get a job within AI safety. And getting people matched up with a good position is work that in general has very high impact. But unfortunately, a lot of people have found that that is not easily tractable. And there's a lack of organizations here. It is pretty unfilled, but I think unfortunately that's because it's not very tractable. I think one organization that successfully does this would be Arcadia Impact. But part of the reason why they can do that is that they're in fact a pretty big organization, and they're also doing a lot of other synergistic tasks. So this is difficult, and they're pulling it off. Then there's the organization that are either providing funding or managing funding. And here they are strikingly top-heavy. Coefficient Giving, the previous Open Philanthropy, is the largest. I think they are basically 50%. And the two next are the Long-Term Shooter Foundation and Survival and Flourishing Fund. And these three are just dwarfing the rest. If you also add Founders Pledge, Longview, then I expect you've covered 80 to 90% of all altruistic funding within AI safety. But there are, in fact, a lot of other organizations. And I think it's important to document those, look into them. They may be a better fit for what you are looking for. But I think the field, when you just look at all these organizations, you would think that the field is very diversified. And if you go for the money, then this is, in fact, not the case. I've toyed here with an idea of like splitting this category in two, depending on if it's a place that you can apply for funding or not, because that is in fact something that a lot of the people who look at the map at aisafety.com/map, that's what a lot of people care about. One of the key ways to contribute to reducing the threat of extinction from AI is by advocating. You can advocate to policymakers, to the general public, or other specific audiences. And I think this is the most important lever we have for reducing the threat of extinction. So this is an area where I really wish we would spend more effort. And Pause AI would be an example. It's the best outreach organization in my estimate, and that's by a pretty long shot, like by a mile. And this is an organization that actually does a lot of different stuff, and some of it isn't really obviously advocacy. For instance, they were the first to draft an AI safety treaty, right? Because they went out to politicians. Politicians said, "Okay, what do we do?" And they realized we needed a treaty. So they made one, and that's great. But that really shouldn't, in a perfect world, be what Pause AI does. So this is definitely not a critique of Pause AI, but this is a problem in the field in general, that everything by default goes to Pause AI because they are the only game in town. It's of course not really true, right? Because there are a number of smaller organizations that are working in small areas of the field here. I won't go into them, but also point out that a lot of the governance organization we'll get to later have advocacy as a part of their work. For instance, Control AI would be an organization that has kind of transitioned from governance much more to advocacy. They would probably be moved here soon. Now we get to the organizations that are involved in research related to the threat of extinction from AI. And I will start by highlighting the Alignment Forum, because I believe that is like the focal point for research. It's more like a resource than an organization. I've also placed AE Studio here, and they're doing some kind of eclectic research. Basically, they look at what do they feel is neglected, and then they go out and fund and do this research that needs to be done. They're quite successful. And you would think like effective altruism, there's a lot of people here who look specifically for neglected areas. So the low-hanging fruit ought to have been picked. So it's pretty surprising to me that AE Studio is able to find such good work that haven't been done by more specialized organizations. The earliest and most basic kind of research is what I would call conceptual research. You can subdivide that in many different ways, agent foundations, multi-agent, cooperation. There's a number of ways to do that. And originally, the Machine Intelligence Research Institute was like the central hub for conceptual research, but they have mostly left this space, though not entirely. And some of their ex-researchers are still working on conceptual research, even if they have now mostly made new organizations or joined new organizations. And my personal impression is that this has harmed the field substantially, like both on the output quality and on the impact of the research. Like the Alignment Research Center does in fact do quite a bit of research, but much fewer people read a paper from the Alignment Research Center compared to who would read a paper from MIRI. One important category of research is what I would call strategic research. And there used to be 3 big organizations that specialized in this. But like the Future of Humanity Institute is gone, the Priorities Institute is gone. So the Center for the Study of Existential Risk is like carrying the original torch, and they are like very academically well-founded and are exceptionally respected in the field. There are other good organizations. I would highlight AI Impacts in particular. It used to be like Katja Grace used to work in MIRI, and then it became like an affiliated project, and now they are completely spun out. But they have been exceptionally influential, and we really need more work like this. Governance is a key part of our efforts to reduce risks, and there's a lot of orgs working in this. And some of them are more on the research side, some more on the advocacy side. And MIRI is moving towards governance. And they are publishing both to broad audience and policymakers and researchers. I would highlight the UK AI Safety Institute as a key player here. I have a very positive estimate of them. I think their impact will be much greater than the equivalent organizations in other countries. And I think this is a pretty strong part of our ecosystem. Governance is very hard, but it's also an important topic. And I believe this is an area of AI safety where we are trying hard. Forecasting could be said to be a subset of strategy, but while some orgs like AI Impacts kind of straddle the line between strategy and forecasting, I think the methods are pretty different. Metra is an example of a company that is doing like empirical research. And I've actually, on the map, they're not here in forecasting, they're in empirical research. But there's a sense that the research that Metra has done that has had by far the greatest impact and most visibility is their forecasting work. That's the part that gets quoted all the time. And there's also some prediction markets that have been pretty influential within the AI safety ecosystem. The exact status is somewhat complicated, but I have included them here. Epoch AI is a large and important organization in forecasting AI in general. They aren't particularly safety conscious, however. But I think for something like forecasting, I think they are important enough that they needed to be included. The entire empirical field is one that basically started once we got to I would call them proto-AGIs, like the first large language model transformers. And this is an area that has, of course, grown dramatically from nothing. And there is a great many organizations and also a pretty stark quality difference between the output of some of these organizations, in my estimate. It's a very uneven field with these with the researchers in this area. So I'm considering to further subdivide this. Part of the reason is that I personally expect that the subfields within empirical research will tend to grow more specialized in the future. But that is my prediction, and it's hard to predict the future. The last kind of research is capability. And capability is, of course, pretty distinct from safety. And if you just measure by resources, funding, then this dwarfs the rest of the field of AI safety. A factor of 10, I guess, or maybe more, depending on how you calculate. Like you may be able to see the skull here, right? And hopefully you've noticed the skull. Please notice the skull, because safety-conscious people will in general have an easier time getting hired by these companies than most of the rest of the field. But I think they should think really, really hard before applying for a position that may be counterproductive. There's substantial thought put into the precise location of the three frontier AI corporations. Mostly it's according to how serious they take safety. I've chosen to also include the Chinese DeepSeek, even though they do literally no safety work. But I think from a strategic point of view, they matter a lot for race dynamics and things like that. There are some organizations that did not make the cut. Mistral is French, and so within the EU, that could potentially matter. Meta is pretty committed to open source. That could also be important. I need to make the cut somewhere, and they didn't make the cut. And finally, we have some organizations that are officially closed for one reason or another. And I think it's valuable to keep a centralized record of the things that were tried and failed to work. Most of the other organizations on the map at aisafety.com/map have a tooltip that describes what they're doing. But for the organizations that are gone, I have chosen to write a minimal retrospective, since that may be of particular interest to the people seeing these. And in general, we've, like just by raw count, we've lost 7% of the organizations. And that's probably mostly reflecting the youth of the field. But I think this is pretty encouraging for the field of AI safety. This concludes my overview of the organizations involved in reducing the threat of extinction from AI. Ceterum censeo machinam sapientam esse delendam.